Have you ever looked at a monk and thought, wow, they must have figured life out? No bills to pay. No social media. Just peace, silence, and inner balance. But what if I told you, some monks might actually be running away from their problems? Today we ask a provocative question: can monks be neurotics? Let's unpack this, psychologically, historically, and philosophically. Let's begin with the word neurotic. In everyday language, it sounds like an insult. But in psychology, it has a more specific meaning. In classical psychoanalysis, especially Freud's theory, neurosis is a form of mental distress caused by unresolved internal conflicts. The person may appear functional on the outside, but internally, they struggle with anxiety, guilt, or repressed desires. Symptoms can include obsessions, compulsions, irrational fears, psychosomatic issues, or just chronic unease with life. Modern psychology takes a broader approach. In the Big Five personality model, neuroticism is one of the core traits, reflecting emotional instability, sensitivity to stress, and a tendency toward negative emotions like anger, sadness, or anxiety. So, where do monks fit into this? On the surface, they seem like the opposite of neurotic. They give up worldly possessions, live in silence, meditate daily, and follow strict routines. It looks like discipline, peace, maybe even enlightenment. But here's a deeper perspective. Sometimes, people become monks not because they're already peaceful, but because they're deeply conflicted. Imagine this. A young man grows up in a world he finds chaotic, overwhelming, or morally disturbing. He feels constant inner tension, guilt, confusion, sexual frustration, existential dread. The monastery becomes a sanctuary, a space to escape the storm inside his mind. In psychology, this is known as a defense mechanism, when someone avoids external triggers to reduce inner anxiety. It's not healing, it's hiding. This doesn't apply to all monks, of course. But history gives us some intriguing examples. Take the case of John of the Cross, a 16th century mystic. He spent long periods in isolation, fasting, and self-denial, pushing his body and mind to extremes. Some scholars argue he suffered from depressive episodes masked as spiritual longing. Or Simeon Stylites, the Christian ascetic who lived on top of a pillar in the Syrian desert for over 30 years. Was it divine devotion, or obsessive behavior taken to extremes? These cases blur the line between spiritual commitment and psychological compulsion. But we also need to flip the coin. Not all monks are escaping. Many are transforming. Take Buddhist monks who meditate for hours each day. Neuroscientific studies have shown that long-term meditators, especially Tibetan monks, exhibit reduced activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. They show enhanced connectivity in areas related to self-regulation, attention, and empathy. In other words, their brains are literally more stable. Carl Jung once said that religion is a system of psychic hygiene. He believed that religious symbols, rituals, and myths help the psyche integrate its shadow, the repressed, unconscious parts of ourselves. In this light, monastic life can be seen not as a withdrawal, but as a conscious journey inward. And here's where things get really interesting. Modern life is noisy, overstimulating, and often neurotic itself. We scroll for hours, chase dopamine, and constantly compare ourselves to others. In that context, choosing silence and structure might be the most mentally healthy option available. So, can monks be neurotic? The answer is yes and no. Yes, if their choice is based on fear, repression, or avoidance. When monastic life is used to escape the messiness of emotions, relationships, or personal responsibility, it can become a spiritualized form of neuroticism. But no, when monasticism is practiced with awareness, discipline, and courage, then it becomes a path to self-integration, not self-avoidance. This idea isn't just philosophical. It's backed by research. One 2019 study published in Psychology of Religion and Spirituality found that monks who reported higher levels of mindfulness also reported lower levels of neuroticism. The key wasn't their environment, it was their intention and awareness. Let's bring this back to everyday life. You don't have to be a monk to fall into avoidance. We do it all the time, with Netflix, food, alcohol, work, or even spiritual practices, like yoga and astrology. Anything can be used as an escape. The question is not what you're doing, but why you're doing it. Is it to grow? Or is it to hide? The monk's robe doesn't tell the whole story. Sometimes it hides pain. Other times, it reflects profound peace. So before we judge, or romanticize, the monk, let's take a moment to look at our own minds. Are we seeking truth, or comfort? Healing, or hiding? If this made you reflect, subscribe to PeakMind. And remember, it's not just about picking a side, it's about picking your mind.